Welcome to Green Dot Daily. We're live every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action app. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. I'm Maria Marino, and coming up on the show, MLB props with Sean Koerner and Premier League picks with BJ Cunningham. But we start with the NBA playoffs. And it's official. OG Anunoby is out for Game 3 between the Knicks and Pacers tonight in Indy. Since he was acquired in December, Knicks are 26-5 with him in the lineup and pretty much a 500 team without. Everything is just a little bit better when the Knicks have him on both ends of the floor. As we bring in our NBA analyst, Sean Little. Okay, what is the formula for Tom Thibodeau and these Knicks to manage without OG Anunoby?
Yeah, there is no formula. The formula is whoever has to step up and make plays is going to have to be that guy. And we don't know who it is on a night-to-night basis, no matter what happens. And the funny part about this is OG in Game 2 was the guy that stepped up. He was going crazy offensively. He was making impacts. He was rebounding. He wasn't doing a lot of these things earlier in the playoffs and throughout the regular season. That uptick in rebounding, that uptick in offensive aggressiveness just started recently happening, and it was because the team needed him to be an impact guy. As soon as he comes off the floor, we know Jalen Brunson comes back, but Dante DiVincenzo steps up. Josh Hart, of course, continues to do things that no one in this league has done. I've called Josh Hart a unicorn multiple times, and I had a couple of my buddies laugh at me, but this guy is doing things that no one else can do. He plays 48 minutes a night. No joke, Maria, he may play every single minute of every game throughout the rest of the playoffs for the New York Knicks. He may never come off the floor the rest of the year, and it's because they need him to be. So the formula is TBD because it's just going to be someone off the bench impacting the game that you wouldn't have expected. Could it be Alec Burks? Cool, it might be. Could it be Jericho Sims, who I think matches up really well with this up and down style that the Pacers want to play? Jericho can run up and down. He's a rim running big. He's not one of the better ones in the league, but he can run with Pascal. We just got to wait and see. OG is a big miss, but someone has been stepping up for the Knicks all year.
And it's such a shame because we saw when Jalen Brunson left Game 2 what OG was able to do offensively. We haven't seen him much in that role, but now we see that potential and that ability, and unfortunately can't see it again for some time. As for the Pacers, I mean, they let one get away in Game 1, kind of got embarrassed in Game 2. I think this is a must win for them to keep up their hopes of taking the series. How are you backing them in Game 3?
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. Shout out our guy, Brandon Anderson of the Action Network. We both put in some slips the second round for the Indiana Pacers to get eliminated. In other words, get eliminated here in the Eastern Conference semifinal. And I peeked at a few hedges opportunities with all these injuries that the New York Knicks are dealing with. I have to back the Indiana Pacers here in this Game 3 going home. I think we're pushing. The number opened -4.5. It's already out to -7, 7.5. I know it touched in some markets. So I have to take the Pacers in the first half and full game -155. So at halftime, as long as they're winning and then win the game, this ticket would cash. I believe the flat out, the Knicks don't have the bodies. I don't know who is going to play the minutes. And I also don't know how banged up Jalen Brunson's foot is. He's questionable coming in. We know how injuries work when the adrenaline of the game, you finish, you close out, no problem. But then as you have that day off and then you have to re-up and get back at it, it could be a lot worse than we initially anticipated. We'll see how healthy Jalen Brunson is. I just overall think with how well the Pacers have played in Game 1 and Game 2 and still took an L going back home, they're going to be ready to go early, often, as my guy Jay Money says. I think they lead at the half and end up winning Game 3, and we got a different scope on the series.
I'm with you. And by the way, I have no doubt Jalen Brunson is going to play. The question is, how effective can he be? And then coupling that with some of the other issues with the rotation. Now, somewhat of an unsung hero for New York, I'd say, has been Isaiah Hartenstein. He held his own against Joel Embiid round 1. He's been everything the Knicks needed here in round 2. What's your favorite way to bet the big man tonight?
Yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein's making himself a lot of money. He's an unrestricted free agent here at the end of the year. Between him and Nick Claxton, a couple bigs are going to be very valuable on the open market. But yes, Isaiah Hartenstein, I like to clean up the glass tonight. Over 10.5 rebounds, minus 105. The no OG Anunoby, or not OG not being on the floor, I should say, is a big part of this handicap. He's averaging 6.5 rebounds in the playoffs and has really picked it up as of late. That wasn't a big part of OG's game, rebounding. You can go look at the regular season numbers. Now that he's off the floor, there's only 2 guys on the entire court that want to rebound, and that's Isaiah Hartenstein and Josh Hart. Now, no one on the Pacers in these first 2 games has finished the game with double-digit rebounds. That's just not their game. The Knicks were always going to kill these guys on the glass. They're plus 18 to start the series here. The New York Knicks are on the backboard. I think that continues. Josh Hart's going to continue to do what he does. And then the second guy in line to clean up boards is Isaiah Hartenstein. He had 12 in game 2 in 39 minutes. Also, with the shortness of bodies, I expect this guy to play 40-plus minutes. I expect him to clean up 12, 13 type boards. I wouldn't mind if he played the latter. I'll take over 10.5 boards for Isaiah Hartenstein. He's just going to be a guy that wants it a lot more than a lot of the guys on the Pacers. And him and Josh Hart are going to be the guys that are trying to clean it up.
Sean, how wild is this? 6'4" Josh Hart's rebounding line is at 12.5. So that's higher than the 7-footer Hartenstein. In fact, I would even say that's Nikola Jokic territory. And speaking of, the now 3-time MVP is in trouble, trailing the T-Wolves 2-0, game 3 in Minnesota tonight. Do you have any confidence in Denver right now?
Tough question. I mean, I am confident. I think that they have to show up in one of these games. They have been getting the thing about it is I don't think it'd be a big talking point just overall them being down 0-2 if it wasn't for the fashion that they are losing. They lost the first 2 games. They got dominated in every sense. Jamal Murray was having out-of-body experiences because he's getting so strapped up by Jaden McDaniels and the rest of the guys. The whole thing that no one's really talking about with Jamal Murray is that him acting that way and throwing stuff on the floor is very out of character for him. That's not really his character. It just shows how frustrated he is, and overall, I believe the Nuggets are. I think I don't have any official pick on the game, but something that is interesting is the Timberwolves exacta, I call it, exact outcome, 4-1 at plus 470. You essentially are picking you're letting the Nuggets pick up at least one game in this series. Like, you got to give the champs one game. The Nuggets haven't lost 4 games in a row since March 15th of 2023 when they lost to the Raptors. They didn't lose 4 games in a row all season this year. So if you have some faith in the champs and Jokic, who I believe will have a big game here coming back, I think it fares better for him that Rudy Gobert is on the floor as well, at least offensively. He owns Gobert down in the post. Jokic has a big game. Jamal is a little more efficient, and then maybe Anthony Edwards can miss a few shots, and they could steal a game. But overall, I think this is Timberwolves in 5, and plus 470 is a pretty heavy number.
I think it's a really good look. And by the way, Nuggets getting 4 on the road tonight. Jamal Murray, KCP, and Reggie Jackson all on the injury report as questionable. Sean Little, thanks so much for hanging with us.
Thanks, Maria.
Over to MLB, here are the latest odds for daily strikeout leader on FanDuel. Pittsburgh's Jared Jones, who leads the majors with a 33.8% strikeout rate, is at plus 500. Next is the Dodgers' Tyler Glasnow at plus 800. The Twins' Joe Ryan, and the hard-throwing left-hander Garrett Crochet of the White Sox, who is second in all of baseball in strikeouts per 9 innings, are at plus 850. And Atlanta's Charlie Morton is at plus 950. Our director of predictive analytics, Sean Koerner, aka the odds maker, is with us now. I mean, you can tell I'm excited. Let's talk about this market for the most strikeouts today. Which pitchers are over or undervalued?
Yeah, so I love when they offer this market. I ran all my projections for it, and I think this is just a wide open slate. As you mentioned, Jared Jones of the Pirates is the favorite. He should be. But 5-1 is pretty low. I have him closer to 10-1. You mentioned some of the elite strikeout guys like Tyler Glasnow, Joe Ryan. They have tougher matchups today, so I'm showing some value on two mid-range guys today. The first is Michael King of the Padres. He's 22-1 against the Dodgers. It's a tougher matchup for him, but I love his upside, especially today. And I'm projecting him closer to 12-1. So I think we're getting some pretty good value on him. But probably my favorite play in this market is Brian Wu of the Mariners. He's 35-1, and he's going up against, I like to call them the Oakland K's. Great matchup for him today. I'm projecting him closer to 15-1. And he's making his first start of the season, so his pitch count might only be 75 to 80 pitches, but he should be able to rack up a ton of Ks against the A's, like I said. But, I have him without around a 14% chance he does get to 9 or more Ks. I don't think he'll pitch long enough to maybe get to like 11, 12 strikeouts. But I think for today's market specifically, 9 to 10 Ks might take it down because, like I said, some of the higher end guys have tougher matchups. So I'm not seeing, a ton of high strikeouts today. So I think if Wu gets to like 9 or 10 strikeouts, which again, I have closer to 10%, he gets there. I like him. So getting him at 35-1 today, I can't pass that up.
Yeah, a couple of amazing options there, but pardon me, I'm still just stuck on your pun. Very nice. Oakland K's. Well done, sir. In terms of other picks for tonight, you've been cooking up a new metric called Putaway luck. So can you explain what that is and what you're going to be betting as a result?
Yeah, so I've been looking at every pitch by every pitcher, and how often they get hitters to whiff on each pitch, and how often they've been able to put away hitters with 2 strikes. So I'm just trying to see which pitchers might have been getting lucky or unlucky in terms of put away luck with 2 strikes. And the idea is we're going to see which pitchers maybe are due for more or less Ks going forward. And I found the perfect guy for tonight to pick on with that new metric, and it's Ranger Suarez of the Phillies, to go under 5.5 strikeouts at -115. He's going up against the Marlins tonight. But Suarez is a pitcher who could be in line for strikeout regression going forward, specifically with his sinker. He's only been able to generate around 11% whiff rate with that sinker. Again, sinkers aren't really meant to strike guys out. You're generally using it to, have the ball put in play. But he's been able to put away hitters 28% of the time with it, which is way higher than what you'd expect. And I think that's a big reason why he's actually cleared this number in 5 of 7 starts. So I think he's just the perfect guy to fade, sell high, because I don't see him keeping this up. And the Marlins, they're a little more middle of the pack. They have some high strikeout guys in their lineup, but they should be able to put around 8 right-handed hitters up there against the southpaw, which it'll help suppress his expected strikeout rate even more. So I'm projecting Suarez closer to -170, actually, that he'll stay under 5.5 strikeouts here.
So is this like the first time you're putting the put away luck metric to practice?
Well, yesterday I was sharing the metric with all the pitchers on yesterday's slate. And there's about 4 or 5 guys that we identified that would be a play with this, and they all hit. My only official play was Eric Fetty. He was due for some regression with his sinker, negative regression, I should say. And he had a guy 0-2 and beamed him with it on an 0-2 count with his sinker. So that was put away regression at its finest right there. So the first day, I don't expect to go 100% on these. Again, it's just another nice metric to have when other things line up, like with Suarez. It just, makes me a little bit more confident in my projection. But yeah, yesterday, and I put out the full chart of today's put away rates. So you could check that out on actionnetwork.com. But yeah, this is a really cool metric. And I think it's going to have some predictive value. Maybe pick on, pitchers I think the market might be overrating or underrating.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I may have gotten a glimpse of that chart. Very beautiful, very colorful. Okay, one more before we go. A walk prop sounds like a good time.
Yeah, like I said, couldn't spend a better Friday night than sweating a walk prop. So let's give one out. I'm going with Cole Irvin of the Orioles under 1.5 walks at minus 130. He's facing the Diamondbacks today. But Irvin's a pitcher who doesn't really strike out or walk many hitters. He throws strikes at a very high rate, especially on the first pitch. That's key to keep a low walk rate. If you constantly get ahead in the count, you're going to walk fewer guys. But he also has a very low whiff rate. He doesn't miss many bats. So when hitters do swing, they typically put the ball in play. Again, that's why he doesn't strike out or walk many hitters. And I think, the Diamondbacks is a pretty good matchup for him. The Diamondbacks whiff at the second lowest rate. So again, if they're going to be swinging the bat against him, which they should because he throws a ton of strikes, they're typically going to be putting the ball in play. They're probably not going to have many deep counts tonight where he gets, to a 3-2 count and we're sweating, he doesn't throw another ball. So I think this is a good matchup for him as well. And yeah, minus 130, can't pass that up. I'm projecting him closer to minus 190. He actually stays under 1.5 walks here.
Amazing. Sean Koerner, we always appreciate the insight. And the next time I talk to you, it's going to be Tuesday for WNBA opening day. So can't wait for that.
Can't wait for WNBA starting next week. Let's have some fun with that.
Yeah, let's get it. Enjoy the weekend, my friend.
All right, you too.
Check out some of our pro top props, which you can access on the Action app with a subscription. We have Miles McBride, under 2.5 rebounds, Isaiah Jackson, over 4.5 points, and Tyrese Halliburton, under 1.5 steals in tonight's Knicks-Pacers game. Look who's back on GDD. A day after making your debut, Brian Matthews. I guess we didn't scare you too much because here you are again, despite some disappointing play from our guy, Jason Tatum. Although Daniel Gafford, your prop yesterday, worked out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will complain about being one-on-one, but I would say normally, no, but yeah, I told you earlier, get the loss out of the way. First play on the show, but drop the expectations down very low and then build them right back up. So although when Gafford got hurt, it looked like he was hurt, I'm sitting there like, this is going to be a fun show today. So glad that Gafford came through and ready to go again.
I didn't mean to blow up your spot. I was more so just looking to take a dig at Jason Tatum. That being said, where do you want to start tonight as far as props?
All right, I'm going to go with, so as soon as OG Anunoby was ruled out, I kind of knew, all right, I got to find out what this line is at. So I'm going to go Josh Hart over 5.5 assists, and it's playable anywhere. I absolutely love this spot. So if you look, Josh Hart's already playing, let's just say you don't have to worry about his minutes. I mean, it's high 40s, mid 40s. The guy's play, it's joked that he might not come out tonight. So I look at it, OG Anunoby's out, Mitchell Robinson is out. So not only has Josh Hart cleared this line in his last three games, that's with OG Anunoby in the lineup. If you go back, and look at the last 6 without OG in the lineup, he has cruised past this line. So, and he's got 7 assists in 5 of those, 7+ assists in 5 of those 6. So I am definitely playing Josh Hart. Got over a unit on the over 5.5. And then I also sprinkled a quarter unit on the 8+ assists. And so I'm all in on Josh Hart tonight.
Yeah, so I was just checking to make sure I had this correct. He did in fact play every minute in game 1 and every minute in game 2.
You don't have to worry.
He is the Energizer Bunny, and just the way he impacts the game. In my opinion, he's, I know people say Jalen Brunson, but to me, he's kind of the MVP. He just does everything. But that being said, on the other side, who are you looking to back on the Pacers?
Okay, so this one, and this is I'm playing with fire here because of Rick Carr. It's not the prop itself, it's the coach. So I'm playing with fire because I'm backing a Pacers player that has been getting, he just hasn't been closing out games when it's pretty obvious he should be. So I'm going to go TJ McConnell over 16.5 points plus assists. So, a lot of times I like playing a points prop or an assist prop straight, but if you look at TJ McConnell versus the Knicks, it seems like, one game he's scoring 15 or 18 and he's got, a few assists, and the next game he's got 10 points and, 8 or 9 assists. So I'm playing the over 16.5 points plus assists. It's a line that he has gone over in his last 3 games. And I am hoping that Rick Carlisle realizes that when your team is, when you're plus 20 with him on the floor, it's a guy you might want to play in the last 7 minutes of the game. So I'm just hoping somebody got in his ear and said, hey, he's pretty good. I don't know why you haven't noticed this, but he should be down the stretch. So I'm hoping that he'll get some more minutes, but even if he hasn't, he's still covered this line and cleared it in his last 3. So really like TJ McConnell, and I think it's a great spot for him.
Rick Carlisle had me perplexed in game 2 because I'm seeing Jalen Brunson actually be somewhat kept in check with TJ McConnell defending him. Also, TJ able to make a difference on the offensive end. I would think that Carlisle has heard some of this chatter, because I'm sitting here thinking, why are you worrying so much about the refs? Worry about your freaking rotations. I'm a little sour. It's okay. But rooting for TJ McConnell tonight. Brian Matthews, thanks again for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
To soccer, and Arsenal and Manchester City are 1 and 2 respectively on the Premier League table with the season winding down. Man City has Fulham tomorrow and then a big one against Tottenham Tuesday before their finale. Arsenal takes on Manchester United on Sunday. As we say hello to soccer expert BJ Cunningham, before we get your picks for this weekend, can you just talk us through where the title race stands in the Premier League?
Yeah, so right now, Arsenal has a 1-point lead over Manchester City, but Manchester City has played 1 less game, so they have what we call a game in hand. That game in hand is going to happen on Tuesday against Tottenham, which is the biggest landmine that City has left. But Arsenal does have the goal difference tiebreaker over them by 6 goals right now. So if Arsenal wins out and Manchester City drops any of their last 3 matches, Arsenal would essentially win the title. But again, it's right in front of Manchester City. They just need to win their last 3 matches, and they have won the title. So it's getting down to the nitty-gritty here. It is crunch time. So City is going to have 3 matches back-to-back in less than 7 days. So it's going to be tight.
Well, we appreciate the breakdown. And as you just alluded to, every match so crucial. First thing tomorrow morning, it's Man City and Fulham. What's your play?
Yes, this is at Fulham. And once we get to this point in the season, Maria, when we're in a title race like this, teams like Manchester City and Arsenal get overvalued by the market because they need to win, and they're playing a team like Fulham, who has nothing to gain from a win, loss, or draw. But in this instance, I do like Fulham +2 on the spread. If you go back to the previous meeting between these two, you'll see a final score line of City winning 5-1. But what that scoreline doesn't tell you is that City only took 6 shots in the entire match, and they scored on 5 of them. And why that is because Fulham is a really, really good, compact, defensive low block when they want to. They've transitioned more over the second half of the season to where the rest of the Premier League is going, a high-pressing, intense style. But when they've played some of the bigger teams, most notably recently Liverpool, they've played very compact, and they've done a really good job of that. Against Liverpool, they held them to 1 expected goal and only 27 shots in their penalty area. They've played so much better at Craven Cottage than they have on the road this season. They have a positive expected goal differential. They've pulled off upsets over Arsenal, over Tottenham. Like, they are a very capable underdog here, and they can really exploit City in their one main weakness, which is defending in transition and defending crosses for that matter. City is very average in terms of the percentage of crosses allowed in their penalty area. And Fulham has completed the 2nd most crosses of anybody in the Premier League. They have great guys who can break. They have a great striker in Rodrigo Muniz, who is in incredible form over the second half of the season. So I think Manchester City is, laying 2 goals on the road in the Premier League, you typically only see that with Manchester City playing a relegation type team. But the situation that we're in right now, where City has to win, they've just got way overinflated by the market. So playing against that has typically been a very profitable strategy. So I like Fulham +2 at -120.
+2 doesn't seem like an outrageous ask, considering, the last match was a bit more competitive than the final score indicated. But as mentioned earlier, Arsenal is right there with Man City. They play Man U 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. How are you betting that match?
Yeah, so I like Arsenal to win nil at +195. So Manchester United are coming off a proper throttling by Crystal Palace, and it was well-deserved because I would say they are probably the most tactically flawed team in the Premier League this season, which is crazy to think because they are the biggest club in the world. But typically, Maria, what they like to do when they're out of possession, well, they do one of 2 things. So, against Arsenal, they might try to play a little bit of a lower block, but typically they like to press high with the front 4. but they don't have their defensive midfielders and their center backs come up and aid the press. So what that leaves is a ton of space in the middle of the pitch, and teams have just been exploiting that over and over and over and over again because United has so many injuries across their back line that they can't really do that to leave themselves exposed. So they're stuck in between two different type of tactical philosophies. And when you're stuck in between two different things, it usually doesn't end up very good. So I'm thinking United will probably play very, very passively in a low defensive block. They've tried that against Liverpool and against Manchester City. Against Liverpool, combined over the two meetings, they conceded close to 6 expected goals. Manchester City put up 3.5 expected goals on them. Like, it's not a sustainable method. They're just delaying the inevitable. And they're also potentially going to be without Bruno Fernandes, who's their most important attacking player. They haven't gotten much production out of their striker, Rasmus Højlund. Fernandes actually leads the team with a 0.3 XG per 90-minute scoring rate, which is not necessarily a good thing if your number 10 is the one leading you essentially as your most productive scorer. And he has 84 passes completed into the penalty area. The next closest is Diego Dalot with 30. Arsenal's the best transition defense in Premier League and, quite frankly, in the world. They're only allowing 0.68 non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes. So even though Arsenal's on the road, like, this is a horrible matchup for Manchester United. And if they're without Fernandes, their best attacking player, it's going to be a real struggle for them to create even close to 1 expected goal. So projected Arsenal to win 0, Arsenal in a shutout, for those who don't know what 0 is, at closer to plus 165. So I think I'm getting a little value on plus 195.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I trust your analysis of Arsenal. I think very few betting analysts out there, if any, know this team as well as you do. A lot of other action, though, this weekend. What else are you betting before we let you go here?
Well, Maria, as you know, the NBA playoffs are going on. So this is my
Really?
basketball match of the week. West Ham against Luton Town, over 3.5 at plus 110. We have two teams that primarily like to play in transition and like to press high, and it's going to be a very back and forth type of encounter. Since the calendar turned to 2024, these are the two worst defenses in the Premier League. Both of them are allowing over 2.3 expected goals per 90 minutes. And Luton Town specifically is in a situation where they need to win or else they're getting relegated. So they have no choice, and they've kind of gone that way over the second half of the season. They've abandoned whatever type of passive low block they tried over the first half because it just wasn't working. They were still conceding a ton of chances. So their manager, Rob Edwards, is like, well, let's just go for it. Like, we really don't have another option because of all the injuries they've also sustained. So they're going to try to press West Ham, who has tried to build out of the back a little bit more. Typically, West Ham has been a very direct team from goal kicks and dead ball situations, but against lesser competition, they have tried to build it out of the back, and what that creates is two different things. Either one, they're going to turn the ball over, which they've done a lot when they've tried to do it against teams that press them and give Luton Town easy opportunities, or two, they're going to beat the first line of the pressure, and they're going to be attacking one of the worst transition defenses in the Premier League. So what this creates is a basketball match. It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There's not a lot of sustained possession. So I like over 3.5 at plus 110. I think we're going to see a ton of goals here.
BJ, you're very slick. How do you get me interested in watching Premier League soccer? Just tell me it's a basketball matchup and I'm on
That's
board.
right.
But for more where this came from, make sure you check out the podcast Wonder Goal. BJ, thanks again.
Thanks, Mario.
Remember, any picks we give out here on the show, you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. And that does it for another week on Green Dot Daily. I'm Maria Marino. Thanks so much for watching. The show is back Monday at 3 Eastern on the Action app and YouTube channel. Have a great weekend.